Good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again for Dialogue with the Diaspora. I'm your host, Dan Haylock. In keeping with our off the beaten path theme, tonight we start off taking a virtual journey to Southeast Asia. We're venturing to Thailand to dialogue with Robert Bobby Aviles. Bobby is from Belize and he's married to Namatha Aviles from Thailand, and they operate the House of Hope Orphanage on the Thai-Burma border. It ministers to children from Burma displaced to Thailand. Though it started out as a refuge for boys at risk of being recruited as soldiers in Burma's long-running civil war, it is currently co-ed. They accept children from extreme poverty, orphans, those from abused and neglected backgrounds. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yes, it's very early there, isn't it? Yes.
Yes, it sure is.
Bobby, let's start off first with your Belizean roots. All our viewers want to know about these Belizeans who are all over the world, living elsewhere, doing different things. So we like to start off by giving you an opportunity to tell us about your Belizean roots. Yeah, where you grew up in Belize, about your family.
Sure. I was actually I'm the second of seven children. I'm the second of seven children. I was born in Punta Gorda, and then I moved to, I did my schooling in Punta Gorda for a bit. Then I moved to Belmopan, where I attended Belmopan Junior School and Belmopan Comprehensive School. And then after that, I went to Belize Technical College. That's where I did my associate's degree, and then on to Belize City, where I attended youth. At that time, it was UCB in 1993. Yeah, so that's when I graduated from UB at the time, 1993.
So you graduated from UCB. It was still UCB at the time, or it had already become UB? Right, the University College of Belize. You know, there might be some younger people who don't know UCB, but yes.
Yes.
So, Bobby, do you get a chance, I mean, being so far away, do you get a chance to make it back to Belize?
Yeah, my family, I have two kids, 22 and 17, CJ and CC. So with my wife, we make it a point as a family to go to Belize every 4 years.
So you're not losing that connection?
No, not at all.
Why Thailand? I mean, this is not one of those places, you know, as we said in our introduction. I mean, it is off the beaten path, you know. So why Thailand?
Well, my journey to Thailand was not a direct one. After graduation from UB at the time, I moved to the States, where I went to Bible college in the States, and that's where I met my wife. This year we'll be married for 24 years. So I met her in the States while I was in Bible college. Then we got married. We actually got married in the States, and then we were with an organization called Teen Missions International. And so after Bible college, I joined them as staff. And then they had work here in Thailand. And because of my wife being of Thai nationality, then they asked if we would come and oversee their work here. And that's how we got here the first time in 1998, and worked with them until 2000. And from there, we went on to do our own work that we are doing.
So talk to me about this House of Hope. How did this come about?
Well, My story, my story is a God story. I don't have any training working with children, but that's not my background. My background is business administration. But from the time after I graduated from UB in Belize, I had an experience where I knew instead of being about my own business, I wanted to be about God's business. And so he's actually the one that brought that about, because when I first came to Thailand, I was teaching English. Then I was teaching English and then also doing some development work up in the villages. And when we were in those villages, then we heard about an orphanage where the director was retiring. He's a Malaysian, married to a Norwegian. He was retiring and looking for somebody to take over the orphanage. And because we were doing some work that close, then they asked us if we would do it. And we, being a bit adventurous, then we jumped at the opportunity. And yeah, that's what we've been doing since 2008 up until now.
Good, yeah. For our viewers who are not familiar with Burma's civil war, can you give us a very quick history on that? To contextualize this, yes.
Sure. Burma has had a long-running civil war since about 1962. And what happens, people look at Burma as only Burma, but Burma is a country with 140 different ethnic groups. But then the majority Burman people, they're the ones that rule the country. But then the ethnic groups do not want to be under their rule because of it being oppressive and them losing access to land privileges. Burma is a country with a lot of minerals and that kind of thing. So then they defend themselves against the Burmese military, and then that's the cause of the war. So that's the cause of the war up until now. It's just recently. So Burma is a military dictatorship. They tried to experiment with democracy a couple times, and when it started to look like democracy was working, which was not to the advantage or the liking of the generals, then they instituted a coup. And so that's why we have this current coup that's taken place. What's different this time is that there are actually Burmese people who are rising up against their own Burma military, and not only the ethnics as it has mostly been in the past.
How does the orphanage find these children? How do they come to the House of Hope?
Yeah, well, we do not go out to look for children. The children, they find us. We got most of our children in 2010, I believe. That's when there was a home here. I mean, in Burma where the kids live, there's not much for children to do. I mean, Burma has a big drug problem. They're the number one, if not number two, drug producing country in the world. And where they live, they don't live in the cities. They live just across about 2 hours across the border. So there's not much for them to do. So they try to seek opportunities in Thailand. Thailand is like Mexico for the United States. So the Burman citizens come to Thailand to work. Well, the kids, they're young, they cannot come to work. So they try to seek educational opportunities. We have kids, we have soldiers referring them to us, teachers. That's how they get here.
What numbers are we talking about, the number of children in the orphanage?
Well, it fluctuates, but now at this present moment, we have 20 kids who have been with us who are mostly teenagers. So we have like 20 teenagers now.
What's the maximum you can accommodate?
We can do up to 40, but we don't like to go past 20, past 30, just because we like to keep it as a family and not an institution.
Yeah. What ages are we talking about, Bobby? What more or less are the ages of these children?
Well, now we have like from 12 to 19. One thing, when they come into Thailand, they have to start in grade 1. So we have some of like our 18 years old in first form or second form. That's because when they come over to Thailand, then they have to start in grade 1.
So some of these children at the tender age of 12 are actually traversing the borders of these two countries and coming into Thailand to try to find a way to survive.
But lots of them move with their families as well. So then they go and live in work camps with their families, and those are not in school. The thing that makes us strategic here is that when they come, they do not know Thai, and so being here on the border, schools are more willing to accept them than they would in the big cities.
Mm-hmm. So perhaps then you can go right into one of the other questions I have for you. What kind of services, the life skills training, do the children receive at the orphanage?
We do a lot here. I mean, we use the term orphanage, we use the term children's home, but in our minds, we are running a training program for kids. So the kids, they do go to public school. They're at school in public school every day. But then in between times, we actually have a little farm. So on the farm, we grow our own rice. We have pigs. We have cows. We are actually working on a pasture right now. We have chickens, so we try to be a little bit self-sufficient, not 100%, but at least maybe 30 or 40. And then we started a program in 2015. And that program was a Saturday apprenticeship program for our older kids. This means that they would go into town and on a Saturday and apprentice with a tradesperson in town. That started in 2015. Then we eventually decided to bring those skills. I mean, they were doing motorcycle repairing, working at coffee shops, baking, and then we decided to bring those skills back here onto the campus, and we actually have a coffee shop here now. It's a nice coffee shop, and because we are on a tourist route, and so we have a coffee shop here. The kids, they on the weekends, not during the week, because during the week they're in school. On the weekends and on holidays, they serve, and they are the barista in the coffee shop. And then at this current time, we're actually setting up, because we are on a tourist route, we are also setting up a guest house. And that's where I am right now, and to serve tourists along this way. So teaching kids life skills, because they are from Burma, most of them won't be getting a job in offices. So we offer them life skills training that will help them once they graduate.
As you said earlier, several of the activities that you do are intended to help you to be self-sufficient. But of course, you can never raise enough money that way to do what you're doing. So how do you fund the programs overall, apart from what you generate yourselves?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, you know. The question, if I were in Belize would ask me, you know, which church is supporting you. We actually have, believe it or not, we actually have a one church in Belize from the Valley of Peace, and then
A
we have,
church in Belize from the Valley of
yes,
Peace provides some funding?
yeah.
Really?
The smallest amount of funding comes from Belize, but it's the biggest because I know, you know, in Belize we have our own problems, but we are able to give as well. So,
How did
yeah,
that come
so
about? How did that happen?
I think my dad, he translates for that church, and then so they know about what we are doing here, and they were because of me being a Belizean, they wanted
They
some
wanted to help.
in yes, and so then not only that, I have you know one about our work. You know, we write about what we are doing. We don't ask for donations. So our work advertises, and believe it or not, you know, God puts it in the hearts of people. We have people from from the States, from all over the world, actually, some in Australia. And these are all people that we know personally. It's not somebody that we met online or whatever. It's people that we have met personally over the years.
Does the government contribute any at all?
No, because in Thailand you use the word foundation for a charity, and when you're thinking about foundation, you're looking at Bill Gates Foundation means you have money. So if you are not, if because it's not a government priority as such, then you know, if you want to do it, then you have to be able to have the finances to do it, and God has been faithful to provide through brothers and sisters in the Lord from basically all over the world.
This pandemic has affected the world all over. How has it affected your House of Hope?
Yes, in a big way, because when the pandemic started in last year, during the kids' vacation time, it would actually be the time that they would go back across the border, because they come here and we send them to school, but we do not let them lose connection with their families back at home. So when they go back across the border for the new year, for the school vacation, then they are able to come back. But then this last time they went back and the borders were closed. And so they have been out of school for a whole year. And because they have been out, half of them, we have half that live here in Thailand. So half of them have been out of school for a whole year, and
they've just not been able to come back
because of the closed borders. But God created a way that they just recently come back in the last, when the situation was getting tense on the border. They just recently came back in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, some of them have been able to come back recently.
Well, yes. All of them that were on that side of the border, they just came back a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know that English is not widely spoken in Thailand. So does that mean that you're fluent in Siamese, the official language of Thailand?
Yeah, well, the language now is actually Thai.
Thai.
I like to tell people, you know, I consider myself to be fluent. What I don't know, I probably don't need to know.
Wow. Yeah, okay. So you can get by. You can handle yourself.
Very, very much so, because I don't use English as much. In fact, sometimes I feel like I'm forgetting English because I use Thai. on a daily basis. That's the language that I use.
What was the most difficult part of adapting to life in Thailand?
Probably the language, because when you Thailand is a place that is easy to like. The climate is similar to Belize. We only have the 2 seasons. Thai food is popular everywhere, but the language took some time. So I actually had to take some language training. I did that for 4 months, and then after that, I studied on my own, and so I was. So your first 2 months is like a honeymoon, and then after that, when you realize that you're going to live here, this is your home, probably for the rest of your life, then culture shock sets in, and language, the acquisition of language helps you to overcome that.
Do you feel pretty much accepted? Because again, it's not a place that you would see a lot of people, black people, people who are Africans and so forth.
Well, I've seen lots of changes. I've seen lots of changes. When I first came here, I mean, there weren't, especially up here in the north. I mean, in Bangkok, you'd see more, relatively more black people, but up here in the north, you wouldn't see many black people at all. In fact, I'll give you this joke. When Denzel Washington, I believe, was doing his American Gangster movie up here, they had to transport in black people from Bangkok, and they gave me special treatment because I was already here. I didn't end up being an extra, but that's just a side story for you. But black people. But when there's been some changes, like for example, Tiger Woods, his mom is Thai. So when he was number one, he opened a lot of doors. Then when Barack Obama became president, black people kind of moved up in their eyesight, and now they like movies, they like rap songs, they like, they are curious a lot about the black culture. But I say all that to say as well, not to forget that, being dark is associated with being a farmer, and being a farmer is at the bottom of the hierarchy here in Thailand. So then at first people they assume certain things, and then when they get to actually know you, then he's not what I think he should be like. And so for me, it's I don't my skin is thick, so I do not let barbs or that kind of thing get to me.
And your children are doing okay in the school system, and
oh yes, but then another thing, because my kids are mixed. Then in schools, my son is in university. Will be 22 years old. Then they have no problems at all. All the movie actors and whatever, the famous people in Thailand are usually kids of mixed parentage.
it's truly amazing the work that you and your family are doing there with the orphanage. Plans for the future?
Well, just expanding on what we're doing. It's the pandemic. It's the pandemic right now, but you know, we have outgrown our pasture, so we are expanding our pasture for our cows. We are actually building. This guest house is actually almost finished, and then but then we have kids. We had our first kids. This was a blessing. We had our first young lady in university, and so you know, and just enhancing that, building on that, you know, grounding our kids in the Lord, because that's I mean, they're uprooted from their homes, and life can be different for them here as well. So grounding them in the Lord and in His Word is a priority for us as well.
Any last words for us?
Well, you know, because I work with young people, I would like to probably challenge our young people back at home in Belize. And that challenge would be, you know, be willing to do, you know, we are focused on whatever degree we might be wanting to, you know, but don't neglect the trades. You know, the trades is very good. Then as well, be willing to do anything. And when I mean, sometimes we like to choose what we want to do. And you know, when your opportunities will open, if you're willing to do anything, and then as well to invite, you know, to invite older people into your circles. You know, I'm most of my friends are older, and so I've been invited because they're older. You know, I've benefited from their experience, from their wisdom, and then they've opened opportunities for me that I would not otherwise get. You know, so and then don't despise growing up hard. You know, I could tell you lots of stories about growing up hard and in poverty in Belize, you know, but that makes us resilient, that we could flourish just about in any part of the world, you know, and learn another language. You know, before I came here, I studied, I knew, because I spent some time in Honduras as well. So I know Spanish, then I know Thai. So I've had many opportunities or doors that have opened because of language learning. Yeah,
Bobby,
so those would be
this
some of
is
the
a
things.
very inspiring story. It's not very often that we see people dedicating their lives to helping those less fortunate. So we really commend you and your family. We want to wish you continued strength and blessings with the children's ministry. Thanks for joining the dialogue. Stay well and stay safe.
Thank you so much. Belize, God bless you. We keep praying for you. Greetings from my wife, my lovely wife, Namata, and my 2 kids. We love you all.
Viewers, we will take our first break and be right back with another Belizean who is making her mark in Los Angeles. Good night, and welcome back to Dialogue with the Diaspora. I am your host, Diane Haylock. Our second guest hails from Los Angeles, California, and has become a household name in Belizean homes in LA, across the United States, and even here in Belize. Barbara Mcnabb Greenwich is chief cook and bottle washer of the famous Pantry show. I am thrilled to chat with her tonight to find out all about how she got started and what it has been like building this business. Good night and welcome to Dialogue with the Diaspora, Barbara.
Hi, Miss Diane. How you doing?
Hey, Barbara, we love to get started here by finding out about our guests' roots here in Belize, your life before you migrated to the United States.
Okay, I was born in Belize, Semanzali, and delivered by Miss Snowy, midwife. And I went to All Saints Primary School, and then I went to Catherine's, and I left out of third form from Catherine's, and then came to America.
How long ago did you leave?
The ending of 1981.
Ah, independence.
That same year, right?
Yeah.
Like right after Christmas.
I can only imagine that with social media, you keep a very close connection with us here in Belize. Do you visit often?
No, the first time I went back was in 2008. Then we went back in 2013 and then 2016. And two of the three times that we went back was for a funeral, sadly. But in 2013, we went on vacation, so that was fun. So I've only gone 3 times.
So let's move on to this very wonderful culinary business that you were in. What was your inspiration for the Bear Pantry show? And how did you get started with that?
Well, I wanted to be an author. And so I wrote my Belizean cookbook. And I didn't know how I was going to sell the book because most authors that are self-published sell maybe 20, 30 books to friends and family, right? So I decided that I was going to start making the videos to put on YouTube back in 2011 because I figured if I showed the people how to make the item that they would want to buy the book. Mm-hmm. So really and truly, it didn't start off, being a show per se, just started off because of the book. And as I started to post the videos, that's when, viewership started to come on.
Well, tell us a little bit about the book itself. What is the name of the book?
Well, my very first book that I wrote with my Belizean recipes was called Beans and Rice and Jesus Christ. And it was just meant to be kind of cheeky, because sometimes we would say all we have to eat is beans and rice, and then Jesus Christ is like the meat. I put that book to sell on Amazon through a distributor, but the distributor is not being fair to me, so he's not paying out any money at all. And so I've abandoned that book and rewritten my book and called it Beans and Rice Volume 2. And that's the one that they can only buy from me. They can't buy it from any distributor, any place else, because, I've become, very careful of where who I allow to distribute my stuff. So now the book is redone. I ask everybody not to buy the first book from Amazon because I don't make any money from it. Just the book that I'm selling.
How long ago did you do this?
The first book was 2012.
2012. Mm-hmm. And the second one?
I redid that book in 2018.
Okay, so it's just the 2 books that you have right now, or?
No, I have a second book that I wrote last year in the pandemic, in 2020. That one's called The Pantry Laid Bare. And that one is just the stuff that I do here on the show, not necessarily Belizean food, but just the other stuff that I do on the show. And I'm writing the third book right now, which is me condensing down the recipes to smaller size. So instead of getting 5, 6, 7, 8 Creole bread, you would get one loaf of Creole bread. So I'm downsizing the recipes for that book. That book's going to be called something to do with small batches, something with that. I didn't pick the name yet.
Okay, when do you expect to complete that?
That book, I think I will be done with the writing in about 4 weeks. And then the process to send it to press takes another 8 weeks. So I'd say 2-3 months.
Okay. Tell us a bit about this show, the Bear Pantry show. Talk to us about that, because that is what our people here certainly are more familiar with, perhaps, than the books themselves.
Well, because we live here in America doesn't really necessarily mean that we have things flowing, right? So me and my husband were self-employed in silk screening plastic bottles. And like with any business, you have feast or famine. So whenever we would have the famine, I would come home from work and open the pantry, and all I would see is like tomato sauce and maybe some Parmesan cheese, or maybe I have a piece of Dutch cheese in the fridge, and then we make garnaches. So we happy, right? Because garnaches is a happy meal, right? So one day I was in the pantry and I said, I feel like old Mother Hubbard. Remember the nursery rhyme? And I said she went to the cupboard to fetch the poor doggy a bone. When she got there, the cupboard was bare. So that's when I said, I'm going to name my show The Bear. I was going to name it The Bear Cupboard Show. But then my sister told me, you know what? Most people in America will not know what a cupboard is. So I would suggest that you change your name to Pantry. And so that's why I named it the Bear Pantry Show, because I wanted to show that even if you have just tomato sauce in there and some corn tortilla, you can make a really good meal, because I really believe garnaches is like a good meal.
Oh, I love garnachas too. But talk to me more about the show itself. How does it work? What do you do? How often is the show aired?
Okay, so right now I'm putting up about 2 videos a week, but I do have times when I will put up, maybe 5 videos a week, just depending on the inspiration at the time, how tired I am. Because, basically, although my family helps, my husband and my 3 young adult kids, they help out a lot. I'm the one that has to come up with the idea, and then we have to figure out, if the recipe is going to come out right. We have to test it and stuff like that, especially when we're doing new things. And then I have to record the show. I do all my own editing, and then I publish it to YouTube. And I started doing YouTube back in 2011. And then it was 2018 when Facebook came knocking, asking me to, move the show to their platform. But I didn't give up YouTube. Thank God I didn't give up YouTube, because Facebook, although they built me out, I did all the work and we built out a good 200 and something thousand followers. Facebook is still iffy with their paychecks, man. So I definitely post more to YouTube than I post to Facebook.
So you said you have approximately 200 subscribers?
At Facebook I have 215,000, and then at YouTube I have 91,000.
Okay, wow, that's amazing, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of them are Belizeans. And when they show you the 5 top geography, it's always like Belize, the UK, America. Well, America always comes in first. Belize is like second or third. And then you have, countries like the Philippines or India or maybe Canada. It's really weird, the 3 or the 2 that comes at the end.
What is it to your mind that caused them to get interested in this show from what perhaps might be an obscure country to many of them, Belize?
My mom used to say it's the coconut milk, because we do a lot of things with coconut milk, and Filipinos tend to do a lot of things with coconut milk and plantains and stuff like that too. So I think it's one ingredient or the other that they really kind of latch on to, and they're like, oh, they're using the same ingredient right there. Let's see what she's doing with it.
What are the kinds of things that people say to you when they reach out to you?
Well, when people reach out to me directly, because I put my phone number out there, it's not my real phone number, but it comes to my real phone, right? It's a Google number. And they're usually very, very kind when they reach out that way. But sometimes the commenters on the page are not that kind. And you kind of have to have a thick skin. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I cuss out everybody and then I move on. Not all the time, though, but it's like sometimes people are rude, and they can do that because they're hiding behind a computer screen, right? But for the most part, I would say I get a good 95% positive comments where people will tell me that I helped them learn how to make the Belize cultural dishes that their granny didn't want to teach them, because we all know we come from that family where mama and grandma and stuff didn't want to give us the recipe because they wanted to keep it in the family and keep it a secret. So that's why I started to put all the recipes out here. And at first, my mom didn't like that. She was like, don't put my recipe out there. I don't want people to have my recipe. But when she saw how people were receiving it, then she became my staunchest supporter. And then she started to give me the recipes.
How did you learn to navigate the whole social media world? I mean, that can be daunting in some ways, huh?
Ooh, thank God for young kids. I have 3 young kids. Well, they're getting older now. The youngest is 25, and the boys are 29 and 31. And I started when Jada was 16. The one that's 25 was 16. And honestly, she was the one that helped me, because she taught me I knew how to edit, like physically, because when I went to college over here, when I got my associate's degree, it was in radio and television broadcasting. So they teach you how to like cut with a razor blade and paste back things together like audio with tape, right? Well, now we had to do it digitally. So Jada knew a little bit because she was taking some of that in high school, and she taught me. And then when I switched to like Apple stuff, then I kind of had to like learn the hard way through YouTube videos. But she taught me how to do it on regular PC. And really and truly, it's the kids that are, helping me, move forward with whatever I'm doing and learning all the technology.
But you said earlier that you're virtually doing your own videography?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Like this setup that I have here, I did all this.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. So now you're a pro at doing this, huh?
I know a lot now. I wouldn't say pro because I really wish that I could just sit under the tutelage of somebody else that knows what they're doing and they could tell me things. I'm sure there are little tricks that I'm missing that somebody could tell me that could make it a whole lot better. But I know a lot that I could share information with others that maybe do not know as much as I do.
Barbara, what has been your the biggest lesson you've learned from starting and growing the Bear Pantry show?
I know people always say this, to be authentic, but when I first started, I asked my daughter at the time, she was 16, I said, should I just like look pretty all day and dress up in a suit like this? And she said, Mommy, no, you're going to start hating that. You have to look natural the way you would look in the kitchen, but you don't have to look raggedy. So I would tell anybody that want to get started to put yourself on camera. A lot of people do this and they don't put themselves on camera, but that's all they'll ever be, is just a YouTuber where you see their hands and they're talking a voice over. If a TV show is going to come and pick you up, they want to see that you can walk and chew gum. They want to see that you can put yourself together and, you know, and look decent and not look, because when I first started, I looked nervous in the beginning, but throughout the years, I'm in this almost 10 years. It's a lot easier. And I think I couldn't do it if I didn't, like, if I wasn't myself, if I put on a persona.
It does get easier with time, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
What are some of the more popular recipes or that you've done on the show?
Well, of course, rice and beans. And I'll tell you a little secret. I'm not really all that great at making the rice and beans. My husband, Joe, is the one that really knows how to do that. We call him the rice and beans whisperer. Every party we get invited to, or if I get invited to come do an interview like this in real life and I have to take food, he's the one that cooks the rice and beans. But anything to do with flour, like baking and stuff like that, I'm really good. So I'd say the rice and beans, oxtail. A lot of people have found Joe's stew oxtail on the stovetop or the pressure cooker. And then, of course, all the different Creole bread, Creole bun, and black cake. These are the ones that people come to. And they also come for the panades recipe, too. Somebody has told me that they started their panades shop in Florida off of my panades recipe that I put out.
This is a Belizean, of course.
Yes.
Wow. And you said that this has been going on now for about 10 years, doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
October coming will make 10 years. And a lot of the recipes are not, like mine completely. I start off with something and then somebody offers, like, girl, put some baking powder in the masa because so and so. And that's how the recipe becomes more unique because of people's suggestion. People in my family, friends and family. And that's how I started off with the recipes.
What advice would you have for other Belizeans who dream of starting their own business and compete on these global platforms?
I would tell them just press record. Don't wait for your husband, your mom, your granny. I see so many people say, I want to start my YouTube channel, but my brother don't want to do it with me and you don't need nobody. Start by yourself, press record. The first one's not going to be all that good. Don't worry about it. I have a lot of videos here at the page that are not all that good with lighting and speaking and all that stuff. I don't care. I put it out there because people can see the growth as you go along. I would say don't wait for anybody. I was trying to wait for, I think I wanted Joe to do it with me and then Jada to do it with me. And, this is not really their dream. They'll help, but it's not their dream. So I had to get started and then now they help.
Is this now your full-time job, Barbara? I mean, are you making enough money to sustain yourself?
Well, yes, it is. At first, we had our bottle printing business for 15 years, and I was doing it alongside doing that business. But we closed that business in 2017, and my husband, Joe, took early retirement. And so along with the retirement and what I'm making, we can sustain the household.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really, really, really amazing. Luckily, you were able to get rid of that first scammer, if you will. Huh?
You know what? He's still selling my books on Amazon, but somebody reached out to me, a viewer that's getting ripped off by some other distributor also. And she's actually talking to me right now about some lawyer. I'm like, please help me. I don't know where that's going to go, if it's going to go anywhere, but he's still selling my books on Amazon. But I took control of the book and rewrote it, and I'm selling the book too.
So maybe another advice, perhaps to all viewers certainly, would be to really pay attention to that sort of thing when they start out. You know, I recall the whole experience that Marie Sharp had with her product. You know, Melinda pepper sauce, you know, and I mean, there are people out there who will take advantage of us if we're not aware of.
I would tell anybody who is self-publishing not to let anybody distribute your book for you, because there are a lot of these publishing houses where they're not truly the publisher. We are the publisher, and they're just the one that makes the books on their system, and then they distribute it. So of course they want distribution rights, because they know how to put that stuff on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and stuff. And they'll tell you, I'll give you half of the profits, but they never will. I mean, who's there to keep them honest? They don't give you any spreadsheets, anything like that, right? So I would say, don't let nobody distribute your book unless you really know the person and then you sign a contract with them, because these fly-by-night people, they're ripping everybody else off.
And the good thing now is that the technology does allow us to do a lot of this work ourselves, huh?
Yes, that's true. You can have your website, and your website can be successful if you put it in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing. And I deal with mostly just Belizeans when I'm doing stuff like that. That Belizean young man built my website for me recently, and he's the one that's still an administrator on it, helping me control it. And I tend to reach out to my small Belize businesses to promote them, because that's where my heart is. You know, I'll promote anybody's small business if the product is good, but I go for my Belizeans first.
Is there any final word you'd like to leave with our viewers this evening?
Final word is follow your dream. If you have a dream to do something like this, figure out a way to make it work. When I first started, I didn't even own a camera. I didn't have a really great smartphone. I sold a piece of ankle chain that was busted in 3 locations, and I sold it for the scrap gold money. And I went on and bought my first little $200 camera, and we did it in the dark, just the light that was in the kitchen. And then later on, we decided to put lights above and stuff. And we're still using floor lamps, you know, like you would get at Walmart with the 3 heads to just go ahead and light the place. And my kitchen is in bad need of a whole makeover. But it's okay. Nobody pays attention to old pot, you know, rusted trays, nothing like that. People just want to see you cook, and put your face in everything, especially if your face pretty. Put your face in everything, because people want to see your face.
Barbara, thank you so much for joining us in this dialogue. And I wish you continued success with the Bear Pantry show and your books. And well, I encourage you to continue to stay safe and well where you are.
I receive your blessing. Thank you so much, and you stay safe, all right?
Viewers, we'll take our final ad break and be right back. Friends, thank you for staying tuned in to Dialogue with the Diaspora. If tonight's show has not left you inspired and amazed by Belizeans in the diaspora, I'm not sure what could move you. Starting with Barbara, or Bear Pantry celebrity, her YouTube splendor is nothing short of fascinating. She's been able to curate Belizean cuisine to the delight of hundreds of thousands of viewers who frequent her channel to learn Belizean recipes. She's one of our foremost cultural ambassadors in that regard. And Robert in Thailand makes me tremendously proud, and I'm sure countless Belizeans at home would agree. His philanthropy and bottomless heart of care for the most vulnerable are moving and epitomizes old school Belizean warmth and spirit of It Takes a Village. We are proud of both of them and appreciate most their inspiration for other Belizeans, home and abroad, to take up space off the beaten paths, putting Belize on the map and sharing our warmth with the world. We celebrate them both. On that note, I will sign off for now, but we will be back again next Thursday at 7 p.m. right here on CBTV and on Colorblind's Facebook page. Good night and take good care.